like sharks around the entire room, pressing extra hard while you're intoxicated. Push, close, follow up, and then follow up some more. You find out that the whole underlying factor is to get somebody to give you their money by deceit. And when I look back on the purchases I made, talking 15,000 here, 40,000 there,
wow.
5,000 here, people would spend thousands just in hopes of getting a picture with the man. The upsell was $400,000 for the next level. And I probably seen about 10 people stand up and take that offer. Everybody just glorifying and idolizing this guy, just like a god. My truck was branded with his stuff.
What?
My house full of pictures, like I had a big picture of him. I took everything to the next level. You couldn't even have talked me out of it. There were people who brought it up to me like, hey, dude, you're in a cult. There's some things that are off here. And I remember that thinking about it now, but it's almost like I didn't even hear them.
Hi there, it's Darlene. I hope you're doing well. So I always figured that the people who bought Seven Figure Accelerator had it bad for the amount of money that they had to pay and then all of the upsells and how culty it is in there with all the mindset training and the toxic positivity and the school group. And then on top of it with Philip constantly trying to upsell them within the Zoom calls and trying to upsell them into Diamond Club. Oh, you'd understand this better if you paid more money. Oh my God. So when I saw this video here, I thought of you guys. I've shown you guys this channel once before, actually. It was when I was talking about how Seven Figure Accelerator resembled an MLM that also resembled a cult, blah, 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 back and forth through that. And so now they are interviewing Benjamin John, who used to be deep into it with Grant Cardone. I mean, this guy over the years has spent a sum total of about $250,000 on Grant Cardone's, it started with the book and then the mentorships and this course, that course, and all of the conferences and everything, and the airfare and all the money he spent on that. And haters might say that he's bitter or something, but no, he's very successful. And we all know how Philip idolizes Grant Cardone.
And if you see Ty Lopez, if you see Grant Cardone, if you see Tony Robbins, they make all of their money through social media.
And something this guy said made me realize that Philip has even modeled some of the course after Grant Cardone's teachings. But he's going to share with you how cult-like being that deep into Grant Cardone's operation really was. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to try and show you how it's so very similar with Seven Figure Accelerator. You should really check out the whole thing, though. I've got a link to it in the description. The entire interview is 1 hour and 15 minutes long, and you can always listen to it as a podcast if you don't want to actually watch it. So I know a lot of you just listen to me, so I thought I'd throw that one in there. Check this out.
So before we go any further into your story, would you, Ben, just briefly talk about who this Cardone character is from your perspective?
Okay, so yeah, from my perspective, Cardone and the 10X community, as it's labeled, it's a pretty big movement. It was based off of a book that I was introduced to, and the way I view this guy is that I've actually coined my own terms for these people, and I wrote a book actually with one of these terms last year. One of these terms is the misguided mentor, and I call them self-serving entrepreneurs. These are people who, like Mr. Cardone, are doing business because they want something rather than actually caring about people and actually serving others. Mm-hmm. And it's a very big thing that needs to be talked about these days. And it's so, like Jonathan was saying, it's not talked about enough. The self-development part, it's so under the radar that it's not even being looked at as a cult. But I can tell you firsthand from being in that 3.5 years and spending $250,000 with this particular man, it is very much like a cult.
Wow. Okay, so when you first came across this guy from his book, what was your initial impression of him? What was the shiny thing that drew you to him?
Well, I resonated with him. He told a story in the book. Out of all the stuff he was talking about, this book was based on doing more, putting in more action, massive action, if you will, And so that's a good message in itself, right? And I resonated with that. And a lot of people who don't know themselves, which at the time I would say, honestly, I didn't, kind of latch on to that message, kind of latch on to people who are preaching that stuff, right? Like, you have more inside of you, you should be doing more. And that attracted me to him. And then the story that he told about, his dad passing away at a certain age, at a young age. I don't know why, that just kind of hit me in the feels, as they say, and kind of drew me into more of a connecting with him on a personal level from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what he is promoting is you can grow your business, or you can build a business from scratch. And you were at the point in your life where you wanted to grow a business, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's funny because I was already on that track. I was already doing well with my business. I was already scaling and making an impact in my community. I was well known. I was kind of dominating that area in a positive way. I was all over the place on social media and doing a lot of stuff that other companies weren't. So I was already doing that. It was almost like he planted the seed in my head, actually. I wasn't doing enough, which was unique. And then with that message, I think it's important for me to note this about that book. The main message is you could be doing more. You should be doing more action, more.
Because there is more to becoming a high achiever than just an unstoppable business. You also need unbreakable desire. That means intense determination and motivation to achieve your goals that never run out, no matter what the world throws at you. And you also need unshakable discipline. The consistent and unwavering commitment to make those goals happen, regardless of what else going on in the world. Without these two things, no business model will ever work for you. Luckily, there is one place where you can find everything you need to develop all three: the High Achievers Society.
But the underlying message was, I have the answers for you. I have what you need. Look to me for success. And that's the hook.
He was at the right place at the right time as far as your life and your journey goes.
And that's something that happens so frequently in these cults. They make you feel worthless. And it's basically like you don't know you have a problem until they show you there's a problem and give you the solution. So you probably didn't think you weren't doing enough until they're like, hey, you're not doing enough, but I can tell you how to do more. Is that kind of how it felt with you?
100%. Yeah. It was more of a speed thing too, like, hey, not only are you not doing enough, but you're not doing it enough fast enough. And so it was like those two things combined just made you feel like, yes, like you're not living your purpose, like you're not living your full potential. Potential is a very dangerous word. When you just drop that word potential, I realized you automatically put that person behind the 8 ball. Like you already put them behind and like they're lacking something.
So let's talk about this environment, because obviously you're here because you feel like his programs are very culty and he basically acts as a cult leader in ways. And so I want to get into your shoes here when you finally decide this is worth going to a seminar for. I'm going to spend however much money, and you can tell us or not how much you spent to go to these in-person seminars. What was the environment like that kind of drew you in? How do you feel like it was culty?
Gosh, we can talk about, what it felt like, and then we can back it up and kind of tap into the statements and the type of mindset that got me there in the first place.
Sure.
When I was there, it was just a room full of thousands of people, a lot of energy. But I could also feel the energy of what we were just describing. I can tell that most people were there not to actually create meaningful relationships, but instead chase money or an outcome. They wanted to be there because they wanted something. It was a room full of people wanting something. And it was the wrong type of environment. And the way that I seen everybody just glorifying and idolizing this guy to the point to where he could just do no wrong, just like a god. I'm not even kidding. It was so apparent, and people would spend thousands of dollars, including myself, just in hopes of getting a picture with the man. It's pretty wild.
Well, I think there's something to be said too about we're talking about in your journey, the right place at the right time. One of the things we find in our interviews with a lot of these cult survivors, the cult itself has to be here at the right place at the right time in history. The circumstances have to be ripe and ready for this to even happen. So I feel like this self-help hustle culture generation that we're in was just right for all these, you mentioned the room is just kind of buzzing with social media. They're hungry. They want to be better. They want to do better. They want to grow their business. They're all kind of just probably feeding off each other, which now you have that echo chamber thing going on. You have that energy, that feeding frenzy of like, we're all hustling together. Easy to fall into.
Oh, 100%. And it's easy to get engrossed in that when you have a room full of that energy you're talking about where, like you said, a feeding frenzy. That just exacerbates when you're around that community. And this is also why some of these were like 2-3 day events. And it's so funny looking back on this now. A lot of times, a lot of the purchases, the big purchases I made were at the end of a 3-day event. They went hard at the end of the event. Not only that, they would get you all loaded up with alcohol. This is thought out very well. They would get you exhausted all day through an event, right? Multiple days. And at the end of the event, they would have sales reps just like sharks around the entire room, pressing extra hard while you're intoxicated. Not the best time to be making purchases. And when I look back on the purchases I made, talking 15,000 here, 40,000 there,
Wow.
5,000 here, they were mainly all when I was kind of I don't drink now, but back then I was drinking, and those purchases were mainly made during those times.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're getting you in this altered state of mind. And we talk about this too. Cults often control your food, your sleep. And this is a way of getting you sleep deprived, keeping you up all day, that high energy environment. I imagine, tell me what this is like, but I imagine people like jumping up. Maybe there's some clapping involved. Maybe
Absolutely.
there's like, turn to your neighbor and do this and like write down and journal this. Like I've been to some of those, and it's not to say they're all cults, but I think it's important to recognize the cult patterns within them so that you don't end up taking a wrong turn. And in your case, spending so much money. I mean, what were the things you were purchasing for $40,000 or $20,000?
Just promises of business growth primarily. Just, hey, you need this program. You need in order to scale and get to the next break point. It was like there was always another level. No matter what you bought and did, there was always another level, and it seemed like there was never an end to it.
Just like
sounds like Scientology. Which I forgot to mention in the intro, and you're going to get into this in a little bit. I don't want to dive in too much right now, but you found out that Cardone is a Scientologist, and you started to recognize the patterning and how it was kind of modeled after Scientology, which is really, really interesting. We've covered that quite a bit on this channel, but let's go back to the environment. So when you first walk in, I found that people who we've interviewed from groups such as this, whether it's NXIVM or even just MLMs in general, when they first go into these seminars, there is a little bit of red flag that goes off and you're like, this feels a little weird. I don't really want to jump up and down and high five my neighbor. I don't know. I just kind of want to learn things and be on my way. And then eventually you kind of like relax into it. Was it the same for you?
Yes. And a matter of fact, talking about red flags and ignoring my intuition and ignoring my conscience, it's easy for me to look back now because it's almost like that character, that person is gone, and it was like shedding skin. I'm a completely different person now. So I feel like Neo in the Matrix. I always make that reference, but I can literally see everything that happened to me and what's going on with people right now. Red flags. So I didn't notice the red flags I did, but it wasn't something that was like in my face. Mm-hmm. I didn't consciously ignore it. Without getting into a spiritual conversation, the spiritual moment I had 2 weeks prior to actually publicly coming out of Cardone community in the 10X community, there was this moment where I was kind of being told to sit down and pay attention to all the red flags that I ignored over the few years. And it was like a flash in front of me, all the moments at once that I ignored. So it was quite a shock to me. And then it put me back in time where it was like, oh, wow, I did remember that feeling off, feeling weird, simple stuff to very obvious stuff. Let me give you an example. A simple thing of where I seen Cardone huck a pen at the DJ's head, like a fastball pitch. And no one's seen this. It felt like nobody's seen this but me. But it literally just missed his head as he was turning his head and went right by him. And I'm not kidding. It was so fast, it probably would have took his eye out. And his reaction after he did it, I seen it. And he was just like looking around, seeing if anybody looked at him. And it was just so weird to me. You know, that's a small example, but there's some other examples. This is wild. I got to tell you this just because this is important. And it's not because when I came out of this, I had a bunch of other colleagues still in it, and I was reaching out to them. Well, one of my colleagues, this is not my story, but I believe her and she has no reason to lie about this. She was telling me about a red flag she ignored. And his wife, Cardone's wife, was in a room talking to people, and they have this saying where everything that happens to you is your fault. And a woman stood up in the crowd and said, I was raped. Are you telling me that was my fault? And she flat out looked at the woman and said, yes.
Oh.
Nobody in the room left. And she was, my friend was telling me the story, sobbing, crying, because she was like, I can't believe nobody heard that but me. And I had to leave the room. But anyways, that happened. She has no reason to lie about that. And unfortunately, she's still in that community.
Yeah, that victim blaming sounds a whole lot like Scientology as well. Are you familiar with NXIVM, the vow?
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar.
So a lot of similar tendencies. We've interviewed Sarah Edmondson and also Mark Vicente. So catch those videos on the channel. This guy started a self-help group, found people that wanted to better themselves.
Change the world.
Invest money with me. The courses never end. And the big takeaway was that there's the intuition that has to be shut off. All the times that you feel the red flags, bury that inside you, look the other way. There's something wrong with you that you're not getting over this. And then eventually you look back and you're like, I can't believe, Mark Vicente describes it as an awakening of a dark dream where he felt like he was actually asleep for 10 years. And now he's actually very Matrix-like, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's something too that we talk about, shedding of the skin. And so another way that they get people is they tell you it's going to be difficult, and they tell you, well, if you're not willing to suffer, are you even willing to have an amazing life? And you talked about, Ben, how you felt like you were a completely different person, how you changed into somebody else. So let's talk about that transformation a little bit. When you went in with these hopes, dreams, aspirations, goals, you're already very enthusiastic about your businesses and you're doing all the right things, but you just want more. You want to scale, which is totally understandable. A lot of us want that, right? We all want to do well. And so at what point did you start to notice yourself change, and in what ways were they able to change the person that you were?
That's the scary part. I didn't notice that I became this person that I didn't want to be, or that I really wasn't. Mm-hmm.
It's a slow, gradual.
Absolutely. It's almost like, if I was to compare it to something, it's like people who wear glasses or like a windshield of a car getting dirty. Mm-hmm. That doesn't just happen like that. It's an accumulation very, very slowly. And sometimes you don't even know it. It's like, what the heck? I didn't even know. How's my window so dirty?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And I honestly didn't even know that I was so deep into it. I realized that it was temptations that deceived me and blinded me to the truth. You couldn't even have talked me out of it. There were people who brought it up to me like, hey, dude, you're in a cult. There's some things that are off here. And I remember that, thinking about it now, but it's almost like I didn't even hear them.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'll even take this a step further. It was a bad experience, but it was an experience I had to go through. It was part of my journey, which, if that's what our creator had planned for me, then I'm sure there's a reason for it. But a lot of people might hear me talking and think that I have a victim mentality, and that I'm like, it's definitely something I'm just speaking about to bring awareness to other people, so that, that's my purpose now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if someone hears the seed I'm planting in their head and it awakens them, then that was meant to happen too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't notice it until I went through the entire 3.5 years, and then I had that spiritual moment. And it was literally like being reborn. And I was like, wow, I can't believe what I'm in.
Yeah. So can you remember any of the actual teachings. So you're spending thousands of dollars on these courses, and that's molding you and shaping you into a different person. I'm wondering if you can remember anything that they're telling you specifically to, whether it's shut people out or, wake up at 3 a.m. and go to bed at 10, and that's the only way to be successful, and that has a toll on your health. What are these ways that they're changing you?
So a lot of what they're teaching is the same thing that is used to get you into this environment in the first place. It's particular sayings. So, and by the way, we can talk about this a little bit more, but the reason I even got into it was because I didn't know myself completely. And so when you don't know yourself, you are open to pretty much adopt someone else's thought process and approach in everything. But it's sayings, like you need to get in proximity. You need to put yourself in, you need to be in the right rooms. You're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Those who pay attention. All these sayings got me in the room. And then once I was in the room and investing all these dollars, I went into buying training that would teach me how to convince others with the same methodologies.
Was the information that you were learning helpful?
So that's the thing. That's why it's so hard. Yes, but it's used for bad. Let me give you an example. Going back to the whole 10x concept, and you need to be doing more. That's a great message in itself, right? Hey, you could be doing more. It could be framed differently, right? Someone might receive that as love, but it's used in an evil way where it's like, okay, you need to seek me for the answers, though. It's my thoughts, and if you like that, I'm going to show you more. You need to get in proximity with me, and I'll show you more and more. So there are things that are helpful at surface level and at a first glance, but then as you get into it, it's being used you find out that the whole underlying factor is to chase money, manipulate, and teach those things in sales, particularly how to actually get somebody to give you their money by deceit.
And see, that's just the thing with 7-Figure Accelerator. Is on the surface, it seems so simple. It's about posting, short videos on social media and, selling a course. But the deeper you get into it, the more you realize that you're being driven to just learning about sales and how to DM people, how to constantly sell to people. You're also, of course, learning how to get around social media's rules to try your hardest so that Instagram doesn't smash your account like a bug. And then you're supposed to be asking people questions like this, yeah. And all the while, everybody's busily learning how to become good little salespeople. Philip is selling stuff to them on a monthly or bi-monthly period. And this is all to make their journey better in some way. Each one is to somehow make it better, whether it's a new funnel or a new AI something or everything, this is going to make it better. And everything that he drops to them lines his own pockets. He's like a leech that keeps feeding off of them. Guru Philip. And they just keep idolizing him as he keeps bleeding them for money.
The ways in which they were teaching you to manipulate, do you remember any of those tactics? Because obviously there's going to be a myriad of experiences, just like with any religion, with any group. There's going to be people who get great things out of it and they're like, cool, that was awesome. And then they leave. And then there's going to be people who are spending $250,000 because they were so hooked in. And now they're on the opposite side of the spectrum, such as yourself, where you're like, whoa, how did I get here? I'm a totally different person and I just spent so much money. This wasn't actually a good investment. So I wanted to put that disclaimer to say that we're not saying that all of this advice is wrong, because no one ever joins a cult. They join something that is helpful initially, and then it becomes darker. So the ways in which they were teaching you to scale your business, what were those unethical methods that you remember?
Yeah, that's it's just to make promises that never were fulfilled. Like it's really hard to put my finger on. But again, like I said, if we were like to break down a video or a book, a training video or a book, I could literally call it out in real time, be like, this is what's actually going on. But it could be something as simple as those sayings, right? Like, commit first and figure the rest out later was one of Cardone's famous sayings, right? That's a good example. I can think of times where that has actually been helpful for me, where I've overthought something too much and just go for it. But more times than not, that ended up getting me, to spend with him. It was used for me to spend with him and the community. Like, for instance, he would say, hey, join this 2-day event. You need this in order to get to the next level. It's going to be $40,000 for this 2-day event.
Oh my gosh.
I'll be thinking about it like, I don't know, man, that's quite a bit of money. And it's like, look, just commit now and figure the rest out later. Trust me, it's going to work. And then I would do it, and come to find out it was all like 3rd grade level stuff that I already knew. And I could literally have looked up on YouTube. It really wasn't anything special. And the whole time I was getting upsold while I was trying to learn.
Jeez.
It was really an unpleasant experience. And that's happened several times.
When you look at it, the entire thing, 7-Figure Accelerator, has now just become a huge sales funnel with a charismatic leader. That's it. That's all. The bottom of it is this 14-day free trial, High Achievers Society, where they pump them full of the Kool-Aid of don't ever stop. And if you don't make it, it's because you don't try and you're a low achiever and you're a loser. So, okay. And then they start coming up to, I have to build this funnel. ClickFunnels is going to cost me $100 a month. And I have to do the autoresponder. And, why is it all so expensive? And all the meantime, you're being told, it's okay. Well, for instead of $97 a month, you can pay $1,000 for a year. Or, it's okay. If you don't want to do that yourself, we'll do it for you for $2,500. Of course, what they don't tell you is that they only do it for you once. And then they're going to change that funnel on you every 2 or 3 months, and you'll be, praising them and paying them another $50 to $100. Oh yeah, this next funnel that's coming up, it's going to be $100. And yeah, it's going to come out like next week. It's going to be $100. Yeah, crazy. And be constantly upsold stuff like the AI training, the now this new AI bot, several funnels, the Diamond Club is constantly being sold to these guys, and that is the next, so it's like you get sold into High Achiever Society, and then once you're in 7-Figure Accelerator, that's a whole nother level in the funnel. And then that level is like Philip's personal fishing pond of where he starts fishing on his own students, not just on the public, which he's driving. He must have a ton of sales coming straight to him with all the paid advertising he's got out there. He's got money coming in from 6 ways from Sunday. And these guys are supposed to be learning and running a business. And all the while, Philip's circling around like some weird guru shark, preying on them. Now I'm going to fast forward a bit. And here he's talking about the people that were still in 10X with Grant Cardone and how they reacted to him after he left the group and started speaking out against Grant Cardone.
The response to that is the response to everybody who comes out and says stuff. It's like, hey, these are all just haters. These are people that are jealous. These are people that are not successful. That's what they call people like me and people that are talking about things like Xenu and like, hey, can you give me some clarification on this stuff that seems a little weird? They really deflect, and he does that.
People are fed so much mindset training that they can't dare think about what if this whole system doesn't work or works only just for a very, very few. Because the fact of the matter is that 96% of them will not make it. That's right. 96% of them will not break even. As in, they will not make their $2,000 or $2,500 back. They won't make those 2 sales. And every step of the way, what are they doing? They're spending more and more and more money on Philip. So I mean, my My figure of 96%, aren't going to make it, that the 4% actually make it to break even or more, and most of them are sitting right at break even. Then look at actually their actual expenses, extra expenses to Philip, for setters, for this, that, and the other thing. Are they making any money at all? That is, outside of the top earners who have a vested interest in keeping this program looking healthy, because if it looks like a vibrant program, they can sell all that much more. And if they're a coach in the program, then they're one of the top 1%. I don't know what makes them 1%, but anyways. And so, of course, they're going to be giving back some to the program. It only makes them look really good. And people who are in this program who aren't making any money are told all the time that if anybody questions you or says anything negative to you on social media, what do? Delete and block. Yeah, immediately delete and block. Move on. And they are taught that constantly. So they're only surrounded by people that are positive about the program. And they aren't taught to debate the program or anything like that. But if anything cuts too close to the bone, it's delete and block and get away from it. And there's a very good reason for that. And this next clip speaks to that. But I had to go somewhere else to get this clip. So after Cults to Consciousness did their interview with Ben John, they called up Aaron Smith-Levin, who is an ex-Scientologist, and he's going off on Grant Cardone all the time and said, you have got to interview this guy. So Aaron did, and so I'm going to show you some clips from his interview because he brings out some different aspects, but similar to what we're talking about here.
How are you supposed to reach and sell and close more people than they're already reaching through all their online marketing? Is this part of the tool? Like, are they? How is that supposed to work?
Yeah, it doesn't work. The only way in my mind that works is if someone is already successful at, like there are some people who have like successful businesses. And so I think what they're hoping is that they're going to inject grants training into what their already existing successful business. And now it's just like kind of a rollover where they get a bunch of business at once. But yeah, no, I don't think, again, to all the business coaches that I've spoke with, they're not successful. They're not, and no one will admit this. No one will admit it. There's so many reasons why they're embarrassed. That's probably the main one. They want to fit in. A lot of people, that community of fitting in with people that are on that same brainwash frequency. There's so many reasons why, the ROI aspect. So no, I don't think a person, generally speaking, I think it's a very rare thing that someone actually is successful with implementing what he's trying to teach. And I think the way that's happening is they're inserting it into their already successful business, if I was to guess.
And that's exactly the way that it is with Philip Johansen's program, if you think about it. The ones who have been very successful all had some kind of background already in affiliate marketing or network marketing, the MLM stuff. They came out of MCS, Legendary Marketer, Ministry of Freedom, and other programs.
Yeah. That's how it's impossible for people to be honest about the results that they're getting, when at the end of the day, what they're trying to sell is success. They're trying to sell the idea of success. This is why multi-level marketing companies are so dangerous. Like, because someone might go, hey, why don't you bring someone on who actually has been successful in these training programs and interview them? And I'll tell you, one of the reasons I wouldn't really want to is you can't trust what they're saying, because what they're trying to do is sell the illusion of success, sell success itself. Yeah. And people that sign up with MLM companies is part of the training programs that they go through is you got to work on your story. You got to perfect your story. Everyone's got to have like a rags to riches story and how this product and this business program made you succeed. And your story is what you use to recruit other people, because what you're selling is success. So you can't trust anyone. Everyone's pretending to be so much more successful than they are, when the reality is most people are losing a lot of money.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely see that all the time.
Oh my God. And telling your story? getting your hero's arc and all that, it's a huge part of Seven-Figure Accelerator. The BS just never stops.
This is going to be like a multifaceted question here. So as a part of, when you were part of basically the Grant Cardone cult, essentially, what did you make of the fact, or were you even aware of the fact, that he's just endlessly criticized online for being a con man and being a grifter and being a fraud and being a fake billionaire? Like, people, I know there's sort of this meme that people go, oh, people hate success. In my experience, people don't hate success. People want to be successful. The fact that Grant Cardone is just known by his peers, and I say peers, to be a con man and a liar and a fraud. Were you even aware of this, or what did you make of it if you were aware of it?
Yeah, man. Again, those were red flags that did come up for me, and I was just so blinded. That's the best term I can come up with. Is I heard that, but I also just thought they were haters. You know, I thought that they were. You know, there's a way that he kind of gets in your head. It's the best way I can put it, man. It is straight up a form of inception, almost, if you will. Where I just looked at these people as, being, I look at them. Here I am, I took the leap. I started my own company, and the people that are saying, hey, he's not successful, he's a con man, he's a fraud. I would look at them and judge them and be like, hey, well, you're still working a 9 to 5, man. And like, maybe I'm on the right path, and maybe you're just hating on me because I'm going the right direction. There's ways that you talk yourself into ignoring that stuff.
And you can see exactly that. I mean, just watching this channel and reading my comments, and so many, especially earlier on when I was first starting to cover Philip, but, quite a ways into it, I was having all kinds of haters coming on going, you don't know what you're talking about. You never bought the course. You're just it's because you can't be a salesperson yourself, or you're a sucky affiliate marketer yourself, and just all the ad hominem attacks on me, without saying, yeah, but okay, what about what the point I'm making? Can you address anything that I'm saying? And they can't. They just wipe it all off to being, oh, you're a hater, and then try to put the person down without actually thinking about the specifics of what is happening to them. And that's why I do these videos.
His bread and butter is hard questions. That's one of the biggest things that I adopted and that most people adopt. And that's the biggest thing that's pushed in his sales training, is that you need to learn how to ask hard questions. When they say this, you say this. And they have a template for all that stuff. I was so caught up in that. I always had a list of 25 hard questions to ask on my computer, on my phone, printed out next to me. And to be honest, that was a lot of I did make some sales doing that, but when I think about it now, the only reason I was able to make those sales with hard questions like that is because it only works on people who are doubtful and have a little uncertainty in them and really don't know themselves as well. So again, this stuff, they get sucked in because they don't know themselves, and then they teach people to sell this way. And the only way that actually works is when they're talking to somebody that doesn't know themselves as well, or doesn't have a backbone to say no. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this world that are in that position, man. They really don't know themselves and they can't say no. And that's why that's pretty effective, unfortunately.
What would be some examples of hard questions?
Have you heard enough to make a decision? Other than money, what would be the other reason why you wouldn't want to move forward with this? I've used all that to follow up with Grant on his, you can hear some of them on my follow-up with the boxing match. Because I would use that as a joke, like, other than money, is there any other reason why you wouldn't want to move forward with this? So my example of that would be like, hey, Grant, other than lack of confidence, is there any other reason why you wouldn't want to take me up on this? So I kind of played around with it a little bit, but, to be honest, I tried forgetting all those hard questions because they don't serve me, dude. Like, I don't need to press. When you are asking and probing, as they call it, what a terrible term, right? You don't want to probe your customers.
They took him on their ship.
Oh, did they give you an anal probe?
When you're probing, you're pretty much tapping into, you're unconfident. Like, it screams lack of confidence. Like, the person who doesn't press is confident. that's my whole perspective of it now. And I can clearly see that, like, if you're trying so hard, that means you are lacking confidence. I can see that. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to try at all. Like, you should just be confident you gave them a good experience and did all those things I was telling you about that should be done in sales. But yeah, there's a whole plethora of hard questions that he teaches to utilize to tactics. I'll call those tactics, because that's what they are. They're not effective strategies. They're tactics to deceive is what they really are.
And everybody selling this course has been so brainwashed that they have no problem spouting off, oh, it's 90% done for you, even when they know damn well it's not. Ever. They're given this whole list of sales things to remember. They're told not to say, oh, well, it's not just a course that sells a course. Oh, you can sell anything. Right, but they never sit down and think, well, then why is everybody just reselling the same course? Oh, the market will never become saturated. Yeah, it already is becoming saturated and sales are slowing down. That's why Philip is coming out with all these new funnels and all these new tricks to try to sell the same damn program that everybody is becoming wise to now. But see, these people, because these people have spent like $2,500 for this program, they don't want to believe that they've just been led down the aisle, that they've just been led down a deep, dark hole of lies. They'd rather believe their deity, the guru Philip. Just like all of Grant Cardone's followers want to believe him, even though everybody else is pointing and saying, look, Grant Cardone has been caught in so much fraud, it's not even funny. And it's now coming out all about Philip as well. So I hope you found this to be interesting. I certainly found watching these two videos to be quite interesting. Let me know what you thought of these and the points that you thought that corresponded to Seven Figure Accelerator. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So you take care and stay safe from scammers. Darlene out.